Hey, it's Bill Corbett here with Port City Living. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for tuning in. For those of you who don't know me, I am a real estate agent. I serve the Greater Wilmington, North Carolina area. I help families buy and sell homes all the time. I love what I do, and I love bringing videos like this to you to give you a little glimpse of what it's like to live in this part of North Carolina. Also, if you didn't already know it, I have another project that I'm working on. It's a podcast, and it's called, you guessed it, Port City Living. And I co-host that with my good friend Brad Brown of Atlantic Bay Mortgage, and we talk a lot about life in Wilmington. We have a lot of laughs, and we interview some really amazing people that are very active in this community, and I think we talk about a lot of good stuff. So go check us out. We're on Spotify, SoundCloud, and Apple. For this video today, I thought I would give you some fun facts. And if you get a chance to listen to our podcast, you'll hear Brad and I say fun facts quite a bit because we love throwing out information about Wilmington, some things that you might not have known, and some really cool information. And I'm all about trivia. So why don't we jump right into these fun facts? Are you ready? Let's get started. Okay, so guess what? New Hanover County is the second smallest county in North Carolina. Now, North Carolina has 100 counties. New Hanover County is the second smaller, so there's one more that's smaller than New Hanover, and that's in Terrell County up north of us. But we've got a lot of people crammed into a little bit of space down here in Wilmington, that's for sure. Everybody talks about the traffic. I am known for talking about my disgust for the traffic and the problem that we have here because I remember many years ago, 20, 30, 40 years ago, well, that's not 40, but 30 years ago, when you could get from one end of New Hanover County to the other, and it didn't take you very long. Now it takes some time. And so if you're planning on coming here and thinking you're visiting a quiet little laid-back beach community, you're going to be very wrong because it's going to be cram-packed with people because this is such a great place to live. Everybody wants to be here. So just test your patience and just relax and listen to some good music and know it may take you a little bit of time to get from one end to the other end. So talking about people in New Hanover County, did you know that back in the 1890s, Wilmington was actually the largest and most populous city in North Carolina, and that's because of our state port, which is still very active today. Of course, Wilmington is not the largest city in North Carolina anymore, but we do have, like I said, a lot of people crammed in here for sure. Did you also know that of the four major cities in North Carolina, they all have a name? Wilmington is considered the port city. Ta-da. Raleigh is, of course, our capital city. Greensboro is our gate city. That's our gateway to the western part of the state. And, of course, Charlotte is named for Queen Charlotte, and it is the Queen City. North Carolina has been known to produce a lot of famous, a lot of talented people over the years, and Wilmington is absolutely no exception to that. We've had quite a few people come from this small town, most notably Michael Jordan. I think everybody knows who that is. He was here just recently, as a matter of fact. Fun fact, his dad and my dad used to work together at General Electric. They knew each other very well. Another notable person that came out of Wilmington is David Brinkley. Now, some of you younger folks probably won't know who this is, but he was a news anchor on ABC and NBC and was born here in Wilmington, and he passed away in the early 2000s, and he's actually buried at Oakdale Cemetery here in Wilmington, which is where my great-grandfather is buried. Another notable person, Meadowlark Lemon, Roman Gabriel, Ray Charles Leonard was born here in 1956. You probably know him better as Sugar Ray Leonard, the one and only. So we've had a lot of people, and there's way more. I could sit here for a while and talk to you about all the talented, lots of athletes have come out of Wilmington. In 1947, Wilmington College was started, and today we know that college as the University of North Carolina at Wilmington. Go Seahawks. So in 1961, a great thing happened to historic downtown Wilmington. It received the USS North Carolina after it was decommissioned from its military career. And it was parked in a harbor right across from historic downtown for us to cherish and to tour. It's an amazing spectacle. If you're going to visit Wilmington, I highly recommend that you check out the USS North Carolina. At the time when it was built in 1941, they called it the greatest sea weapon in the world. That's magnificent. It cost $70 million to create and to build back then, which is a lot of money. It's as long as 2 city blocks. It's as tall as a 15-story building. It weighs 35,000 tons. And when it was in commission and running, it held 1,800 sailors and officers. So it was quite amazing. There's a small piece of trivia that goes along with the battleship that I've heard for many, many years. And I recently reached out to the battleship to try to confirm, but I was always told that the battleship was parked in backwards. It's like when they put it into this little harbor, they got it stuck and couldn't turn it around, because when you see it, you'll notice that the guns on the ship face inland. And I think they should be, not me, but they should be facing toward the ocean, which is the other way, which would be facing toward downtown. I reached out to the battleship and they said technically the back of the battleship is facing downtown. I don't know what that means, but I'm thinking that they're confirming what I was thinking or what I've been told all these years. But regardless, if you're coming to Wilmington, make sure you check out the battleship. It is a magnificent piece of art. Wilmington's famous Riverwalk was started back in the 1980s, and it was finished up in 2017, and it extends from one end of historic downtown Wilmington to the other, from the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge to the Isabel Holmes Bridge, which I like to call the Katie Holmes Bridge, because Katie Holmes used to live here. You can add her to the list of famous people. She's not from here, but she lived here once. The Cape Fear Riverwalk or historic downtown Riverwalk is such a masterpiece, and it's so beautiful. It's a great place to stroll in the evenings, to just sit and watch the sun go down over the battleship. It's absolute perfection, and it's such an asset to historic downtown Wilmington. So what do you think of when I say the name Dino De Laurentiis? Anything? How about Giada De Laurentiis? You probably know her, right? She's really big in the food world, like really, really big. Well, Dino is Giada's grandfather, and he's the one that started the movie industry here in Wilmington. Way back in the early 1980s when they filmed the very first film here, Firestarter, with Drew Barrymore. And since then, Wilmington has been the backdrop for over 400 movies and television shows and music videos. It's been quite fascinating. Some of the most notable things that were filmed here, Dawson's Creek. If you actually look through season 6, you may see yours truly sprinkled in every once in a while. One Tree Hill was filmed here, and Matlock, of course, and with Andy Griffith was filmed here. And most recently, The Summer I Turned Pretty, filmed in Wilmington. Some of the big movies that were filmed here were We're the Millers with Jennifer Aniston, Iron Man 3, the last few Halloween installments and the last few Scream installments were filmed here, amongst many, many others. Dino started Carolco, like I said, back in the 80s. It then changed over to Screen Gems, which is what it was for the bulk of the time. And then just recently, CineSpace has purchased the studio, and now it's called CineSpace. There is another studio that just popped up here called Dark Horse. So Wilmington is still quite famous for its filming. So you never know, if you're in town, who you might run into. So it does snow in Wilmington from time to time. Not a whole lot. Sometimes we'll get a dusting. Sometimes we'll get an inch, and normally it's gone the next day. And I know all my northern friends complain because when Wilmington gets a snow flurry, everything shuts down. Well, of course it does, because we're not set up for that kind of thing down here. But I will say, one time, 1989, December 22nd to be specific, it started snowing, and it didn't stop until Christmas Day. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. We got 15 inches of snow, the first white Christmas I've ever seen, and guess what? I had the flu the entire time. Hey, Wilmington was almost called New Carthage, and it was almost called Newtown or Newton, like Fig Newton. Did you know that Wilmington was a major hub for the railroad? Atlantic Coast Railroad came into Wilmington for more than 115 years until December of 1955, when all that changed, and Atlantic Coast Railroad decided to change their hub from Wilmington to Jacksonville, Florida. Of course, that devastated the area. The economy changed. Many people lost jobs. The landscape of downtown Wilmington was not the same anymore. And into the 70s and 80s, Wilmington downtown was not really a place that you wanted to visit very often. And I can say today that that has all changed, and downtown Wilmington, of course, is thriving. But from Walnut Street north and 3rd Street west, that whole corner looks drastically different than it did in its railroad heyday. Many, many buildings were demolished during the urban renewal period in the late 60s and early 70s, including Union Station, which was a fantastic curved building on the corner of Red Cross and Front Street. That building was torn down in 1972, and I was just a little kid. And I remember as a young adult seeing that massive hole in the ground. But fortunately, Cape Fear Community College took over that area and changed the buildings into the Cape Fear Community College campus. And as it is today, they rebuilt a modern version of Union Station that you see today, and it's quite fascinating. Guess what happened April 9th, 1948? It was the very first Aelia Festival. Now, I know I talk a lot about the Aelia Festival. Well, I talk about it a lot on the podcast. Brad and I actually did an episode about the Aelia Festival, and then we did a post episode about what we did at the Aelia Festival to get everybody a little taste of what it's all about. It's quite a fascinating thing, and there's a lot of people that put a lot of work into this, and this is something that Wilmington is very, very proud of. The North Carolina Aelia Festival in Wilmington, it's always the first or second weekend in April, depending on how Easter falls. But if you're planning on visiting Wilmington, try to make it in the spring and definitely take in the Aelia Festival. It is so much fun. So those are my fun facts about Wilmington. I hope you learned something. I certainly know I did. Before we go, I want to tell you one thing about something. I'm filming in front of my new bookcase wall, and I just have to share it with you because I just love it so much. My dad just passed away recently, and I needed something to get my mind off of that. And so my best friend, Mark Barrow, was with me here in Wilmington, and I was like, Mark, I want to put a bookcase on this wall. And well, I didn't say Mark, I said Marky, because that's what I call him. I want to put a bookcase on this wall. And he's like, okay, let's do it. So he designed it and he built it. And I picked out the color, which is called Guacamole from Benjamin Moore. I'm obsessed with this color. It's an incredible shade of green. And this shelving unit not only holds my books, but it holds my memorabilia from things that I've collected, through the years. And like my girls here, who are not with me anymore, but they're also tattooed on my arm. Same pictures, actually. Lots of things, seashells, just lots of memorabilia. And I recommend that if you have a wall like this or a bookshelf or anything, share your life with people and tell everybody about your treasures, because your life matters, and all the little things like this, it means something. It really, really does. So if you're thinking about relocating to the Wilmington, North Carolina area, please reach out to me and let me know. I can send you my free relocation guide. Just go to portcityliving.nc.com and click on the relocation guide. I'll get that information over to you. Again, I'm Bill Corbett with Port City Living. Thank you so much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. And remember what Dolly says, smile, it increases your face value.